So a few days ago, I made an episode talking about the Michael movie, giving my take on the movie, and talking about the case study when it comes to Michael Jackson's life. And one of the most important things that I learned from kind of reviewing it and thinking about it more and more is the fact that successful people have to be a bit broken. You see it with so many people, and then you ask the question why certain people they already have everything, but then they're always greedy for more. Especially people that end up ruining their lives because they were greedy for more. You think about it, because it has to do with that underlying brokenness, it ends up getting the better of them in the long run. There is a level of obsession you have that to make it to that level of success in this world, where you have to be broken. You have to have some sort of demon. You have to have some sort of thing that is pushing you there, that is giving you some deeper drive, some deeper desire than somebody else, than like an average person has. And I think there's that line that separates success from failure. And it has to do with how broken you are. So that is what we'll be talking about in today's episode. Welcome back to the 365 podcast. I make a podcast episode every single day for 365 days. You will be hated for speaking the truth.
You definitely have like an X-ray goggles on, where you can see someone's aura.
A house divided against itself shall not stand. Matthew chapter 12, verse 25. If you want to make something of yourself, forget your political beliefs. Because different believers experience God in different ways, different non-believers need different explanations to see God as real. Things that make you angry suck you in. Satan's plan fails, right? And God's plan prevails. So this is my own idea. This is my own kind of concept. This is something that I have thought of myself. I have not taken it from any other podcast. If someone else has talked about it, well, my bad. This is something that's completely formulated on my own. The fact that to make it, you have to be broken. But also being broken makes you fail. You end up on the streets. Like, this is a thing that happens. You see online all of the take risks, success mindset, but you don't see the what if it all goes wrong. If it all goes wrong, then you end up on the street. And I don't think anybody wants to live a life like that, where you're homeless, you're on the street, you're a true failure, right? Obviously, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take the risks. It just means that you have to have a better perspective as to what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, how you're going to get there. But let's talk about the success side first. Obviously, we know about Michael Jackson. You can go watch that video when you're done watching this one. I talked about how he was very incredibly broken, but he had such a monumental level of success. We wouldn't have had those songs. We wouldn't have had those moments, those memories. He wouldn't have had the impact he had on the world if he wasn't broken. But he was super broken inside. And he had his passion. He had the thing that made him great. But then he missed out on a lot of other life's beauties because of his just laser-focused, driven obsession to that thing that kind of made him broken. Or he was already broken, of course, because of the abuse of his father. He was already broken going into his career. But Michael Jackson is the extreme example. You see it with so many other people, where very rarely you see it as like this middle-class guy who just lived a good life and has it easy his whole life. Very rarely you see that guy make it as something truly big and have long-lasting impact on everyone, because they just don't have that internal thing that drives them forward in a deeper way than just wanting to make it, right? I'm sure we all want money. We all want to be successful. We all want to get to a certain level in our lives. Of course, we're human, and if you don't want it, then then we wouldn't be human if we didn't have these wants, basically. But the point I'm trying to make is, do you want the flip side of it? You have to ask yourself that question. If you want the success, do you want the problems that come with it? Do you want the brokenness that comes with it? Because I truly do believe, to make it big, you got to be broken. And the bigger you make it, the more broken you are. Like, I think about the most famous celebrities nowadays. I heard a story about Robert Downey Jr., very successful actor, very good at what he does, but he's had drug problems, and I think he even went to jail for a little bit because he got into some issue, or he almost overdosed, or something very extreme like that, because of the pains he's dealing with and the demons he's fighting, and that's caused him to abuse drugs. Similarly, I'm sure there are many other people in that industry that abuse drugs, that abuse alcohol. They use it to take the pain away, or to take the pressure away, to keep them to kind of take the edge off, right? That's a big level of brokenness that is very common among very famous people, right? And even that just desire for more, that obsession. That obsession just doesn't come from nothing. You don't you don't kind of get super hyper laser focused and obsessed on making it to this one thing over nothing. It has to be something, whether it's something in your childhood or something that happened more recently. Like I'll give myself as an example, and I'll be completely vulnerable, be completely real here, right? I was trying to make it as a pro football player, pro soccer player, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call the sport. Maybe I'm not done. Maybe I'm going to keep going. But I found that in my life, I never woke up with that just burning desire and passion, right? I never woke up with that. And I would get into the games. At times I'd be nervous. I'd let my own brain take over and my feelings would overwhelm me and it would make me play worse. These were big issues I've been dealing with, right? I've had a pretty good life. I'm going to be honest. I have not had any traumas. I don't really wish any traumas on me. But there's nothing that makes me broken. There's nothing that makes me feel obligated that I 100% have to make it here or else my life is over. It perhaps is that desperation sometimes in some people that makes them great. It makes them achieve it. But it is brokenness because maybe they're poor, they come out of a bad neighborhood, bad household, bad family situation, and either they want to make it big to prove them wrong or they want to make it big to get them out of poverty. Many soccer players, that's the reason why they made it. They had a gift as a kid. They loved to play. They had a good gift. Their parents saw it. So then they doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on it. And that became their life's mission, is to help bring them out of poverty. And that's how they made it. Most of them, especially like Brazilians and people from South America that really made it big, most of them were just poor. And they had nothing else. They had no other shot of making it out of that life. And that was their brokenness. Just in and of itself, that was what made them broken. And that's what gave them that obsession to make it big. For me, I never had that deep, just obsession, 100% laser focused on it, really ever. And I find that maybe that cost me. Maybe that cost me a level of success, a level of effort I could have put in, a level of just achievement, right? I feel like there's a world where perhaps that is the case. It's like I might have been cost my talent, which I do have, I might have cost myself something bigger because I couldn't find that thing that made the desire just that more desirous, that made it just more possible, that gave me that obsession. Because the truth is, I'm not very broken. And I think that really is the situation. Like, I'm just a normal dude, right? Like, I can just chill. Like, I'm so lucky to live this life I have. And I really need to remember that more and more often every day, every time I feel angry or every time I feel down and depressed, which has been the case in these last few weeks and few months. My life is such a gift. It's such a blessing. Like, that, yeah, like, there is nothing to kind of propel me forward. Like, I don't blame God. I don't put it to God. I just say that, like, there's a reason. And I think that is the reason. If I maybe had something there that gave me some obsession that allowed me to move forward, perhaps I would have done better. Perhaps I would have actually made it, or at least come closer than I did to making it to the pro leagues. Again, it's not over. Something might happen, something might change. Obviously, I don't know what God's plan is for me. It will be something completely different. Whatever happens, happens. But it's basically the case of I find that maybe my potential is slightly wasted because of myself, my own internal inability to be 100% obsessed with this thing. You have to have that level of obsession. That is like truth number one. To make it big in some realm, whether it's sports, whether it's music, arts, whatever it may be, you have to have such a huge level of obsession because you got to beat the other people. There's so many people competing with you. You got to have an obsession and a desire higher than everyone else, right? Like 99.9% of people. You got to have that desire higher than them to reach that level. And then maybe you'll get there. There's still obviously always going to be a little bit of luck involved, but maybe you'll get there. You have a higher chance of getting there. And I think that obsession comes from something deeper than just your want to get there, right? I want to get there, but an obsession, a deeper desire that pushes people to get to a certain level of success. I really do think that it's a brokenness. It is a trauma. It is something that really harmed them as a kid or recent in their life that they've ended up putting all of their energy, or if it was something that made them super deeply angered and afraid even, that they used that energy and put it into a bigger pursuit. It's better than using that energy and putting it into drugs and alcohol, which unfortunately people also go and do. But in some cases, you end up being successful and then you're miserable because you thought that the success was what was going to cure all of your internal battles, your internal demons, but it actually didn't. So then that's why they want more and more and more. And that's why people end up falling because of the greed, because they think that going for more, going for more, going for more will end up eventually curing those demons that they have. But I think the true root of all of it is from a deep brokenness. It is a deep trauma that I think every single one of these people that have made it big in one way or another have faced in some regard. And I'm not talking about like maybe the dumb streamers where probably their lives have also been super easy and they just have to play video games for 8 hours a day and they make it big. That fame won't last for them. For them, that fame won't last more than maybe 5 years, 10 tops. Whereas a person who's an athlete, perhaps you're an athlete, it's a 20-year career, you become a coach, a commentator, a broadcaster, someone in the background, and your name is kind of still out there. Like, your name might be mentioned for decades, 40 years maybe for your entire life. You're still in the system, you're still in the thing, and you're still going, right? For acting, same thing. Like an acting career, especially for acting, is even better. Like, it can be like a 30-year acting career. You're in your 30s for sports, you're considered starting to get old. In acting, you're like in your prime, for example. And for music, kind of same thing. Like, if you still have that creative bone, you can keep going till you die, really. Like, in theory, if you still have that creative bone, you don't lose that energy, right? Like, I think there was some old rock band that I think came back. I don't remember which band it was that came back and did a performance pretty recently. Like, when it comes to just greatness, achieving great things, like, it has to be brokenness. The people that are currently popular but have lived easy lives, that won't last. I think the people that will last, because they have a deeper obsession for it, and that obsession has come from a deeper rooted problem that they've had in their life. The brokenness, the anger, whatever it may be. And I find that maybe that was what I was lacking within myself, just to have that thing to push me even further over the edge. Like, when I get angry, but that anger kind of comes and goes. It's never something that sits deeper within me. It's like the same thing as like why people get broken up and then they end up going to the gym and working hard at the gym and get jacked, right? It's a brokenness that caused them to focus so much more on this specific thing. And I think it's the same thing for people that make it great. But here's the other side. Now I'm going to kind of make a little shift, talk about the other side to it. I was watching a show, and again, it was a show, where the people ended up finding out that there was this lady who was homeless, and she was basically crazy. And the reason why she was crazy was because she actually was such a normal person. She had a beautiful husband and such a great family that she loved a husband and a child. And then she was in a car crash where she was driving and both of them died. So she could not live with that guilt. It was such a horrible thing that happened and she couldn't live with that guilt. So she ended up turning to a life of drugs, the streets, and she ended up getting rabies and big sicknesses because of it, and she's just been slowly dying off. And she's just completely crazy, right? Completely crazy. Because she just couldn't live with herself anymore. She couldn't live with the fact that she actually was the one to cause the death of her closest family, who she loved with all of her heart. I know it's a show, but I think about the show and I'm like, well, how many times does this type of a situation happen to people in real life? I would actually say that it's pretty common. I feel like many people go through some terrible situation where their guilt just pushes them over the edge. So my point here is sometimes that brokenness, it actually works against you. Sometimes there's a level to brokenness where if you're broken, if there's a trauma, a big problem, sometimes that's what actually leads you down the bad path. There's the brokenness that it gives you that sense of anger and that sense of deeper desire that moves you in a better direction, in a direction that will help you kind of make it to the top. But then there's also a deeper, maybe more harsh situation that happens, brokenness that happens that leads you down the wrong path, that leads you, unfortunately, to be on the streets. So, next time you see a homeless person, like, don't judge them. Like, have some pity on them. Like, you give them money, yeah, maybe they will go and buy drugs with it. But maybe also, like, there's a reason why they're there that maybe is not even fully their fault, It is completely like maybe there was just some terrible situation that completely destroyed them. So understand that in this world, right? If you live like an easy, calm life, you'll probably have an easy, calm life, but you won't. You most likely won't make it as something spectacular. If you're on the pursuit of the extraordinary, which I personally am on, I truly want to achieve great things in my life. That is going to come with some problems. It's going to come with some demons that you're going to have to fight. And it just matters where you put your energy. You can let your anger and your fear kind of completely paralyze you and take you over and move you down the wrong path, or you can take control of them and put it into the right things. But that doesn't mean that you'll be cured and you'll be at peace, because many people that are successful are not at peace because of those exact same demons that they continue to live with. But I think that is maybe the hidden truth, is the fact that to make it big, there's a level of brokenness you got to go through. There's a level of a trauma, something that gives you a deeper feeling to push towards that goal. I think just having the goal and saying you want to get to that goal, but like you don't really have that kind of deeper desire, I think that's common human nature. Like you think about people that are just kind of obese and they just are in their bed and they don't really care. They're not trying to lose weight. They say they're going to go to the gym, but they never do it. Like I find that I'm pretty sure that like once they end up getting diagnosed with diabetes, diagnosed with heart attack is maybe where that, or they like get a near death experience, like they have a seizure, they have a stroke or a heart attack, whatever it may be. They have heart problems, heart disease. Yeah. It would take those things for them to kind of wake up to, oh, I should probably start focusing more on this. And I think that's happened many times in this world, right? Like it takes such a big thing like that for them to wake up. But I think similarly to them, it's the same thing with everybody, with regardless of what you're going through. If you're not putting the effort you need to put in, sometimes it takes a deeper purpose. It takes a deeper desire. Anger can be useful if you put it into the right direction. But my point of talking about these things in this episode is because I think it's true. It's my idea that I think it is true that to make it big, I think there's a mandatory level of brokenness, of trauma that you would have had to face, of demons that you're battling. And maybe you don't ever win the battle against your demons, but perhaps you use that as fuel to help you live as good of a life as possible, or give as good of a life as possible to your children, to your offspring, or to the people around you in general, doing what you can. Sometimes you do overcome the demons, right? Sometimes you figure out, hey, like these demons are here. You end up figuring out how to cope with it. You find out some strategy that isn't something like drugs and alcohol, just to be clear, because those are obviously the most common things. I wouldn't recommend, right? But you find something tangible, something that actually helps you rather than hurts you, a way to cope with them, and maybe you do end up having both, right? But most of the time, people that are successful make it big in some regard, they have something they're dealing with. Some demon, some battle. And I know that like I was watching a show, and it was a show where they were talking about these things, and obviously the Michael movie, even if it's based off of real events, it wasn't exactly the same. I get all these things, but I think it is definitely like you can extrapolate. You can extrapolate from these things in the show. Like in the show, all of the characters have some sort of a backstory, some sort of a thing that haunts them. Like one girl in the show, like I think she had a miscarriage or something like that. And one guy, he went to like seminary school. He was going to be a priest, but then I guess he was treated horribly, so he has a distaste towards those type of people. And another guy, he grew up on the streets basically, and he was poor and in poverty, and him making it was what got his family out of poverty. Everyone had a story. Everyone had something that they were fighting. And again, it's a show, and the whole point of the show is you have to have character development, so there has to be something bigger. But for you in your life, like, I think it's the same. I think it is the same. If you're too broken, you have that trauma, and you can't cope with it, it will lead you down the wrong path. And it will lead you, unfortunately, to being where I don't think anyone wants to be, which is without a home, without a bed to sleep, and without people to call family and friends. And you're just there with your drugs or with whoever, right? And it's not good, right? It's not a good way to live. You're exposing yourself to diseases, obviously. That's a part of it, but obviously just being in your sorrows. But if you use those things, those brokenness, those broken feelings, those feelings of resentment, anger, whatever it may be, to propel you forward, and you move them in the right direction, it ends up being that thing that keeps you obsessed for a long enough period of time that makes you make it to wherever you want to make it. It might not be related. Like I talked about the soccer example. Like, soccer was just the thing that they did that was good. That, like, it wasn't like correlated, right? It was like, it became like, oh, if I don't make it pro, my family's gonna stay poor, right? For a lot of these kids and a lot of these people who ended up making it, if I don't make it, my family's gonna stay poor, right? Ronaldo was pretty much like that as well, right? And that's why now we have Ronaldo, where he's so ultra obsessed, right? To the point where even we're starting to question, like, oh, like, does he have anything else that he finds joy in other than his pursuit to stay the greatest in the game? You think about these things. It's like Messi's kind of the same. You think about it the same way with Messi. It's like, does he have anything else that gives him joy rather than this thing? Like, eventually it has to end, right? And it's that brokenness, and you kind of see it sometimes where, like, the pressure they put on themselves sometimes gets too much. But obviously those are the biggest examples. Even the person that's like an average mid-table player has a story probably pretty similar, and they're probably also on that climb to getting there. To getting to the point where they can bring their family out of poverty, or maybe they already did. But that's my point. That is my point. That is the whole idea. That you have to be broken to make it big. And I think that is a true statement. I don't think there is any, like, there's nothing else. Brokenness can mean anything, right? It can be very subjective. It could be a big trauma, a big thing that happened to you, or just something that made you angry enough to push even further and work even harder. Something that struck you a little bit deeper than things you were used to. You can be a middle class mediocrity type of thing, but you had one specific moment and you let that you rode on that, you ran with it, and you let that be the fuel. That's possible, right? But I'm kind of talking about the person who's just, who I sometimes find that I fall into, that type of a persona, where you haven't really had anything bad happen. You haven't really had anything test you to, like, push you to your brink type of thing, or leave you kind of completely distraught yet. Obviously, there's still a lot of life to go, but you haven't had that yet. So like, why do I, like, why, like, I kind of question, why do I kind of keep working hard? Like, I don't work as hard as I should. That's kind of what I was trying to get out. It took a while for me to kind of get the words. I definitely do not work as hard as I should. And I definitely am lazier than I should be. I have a duty. I have things I need to go and accomplish. Not just for myself, not just for my God, not just for my family, for everything. For everything involved. I have a duty to go and do it, and I don't, because I don't have anything specifically that's driving me further. So I think I'm not asking to be broken in some way. Obviously, I know God is capable of breaking people down to bring them back up again. Just look at the story of Job, right? I made a video talking about it a couple days ago. You should go watch it. Like, he's capable of doing that. But, like, I haven't had that yet. So that's why I find myself falling into these exact bad patterns. But I find that, yeah, truly being broken in some way is a way, and probably filled with the only way, whether, again, anger or sadness or deep sorrows, to transfer that energy and put it into a pursuit that eventually you end up working so hard you don't even realize it, because that's just all you're focused on. I've not really ever been in that state in my life because I have not been in such a terrible moment. But many of the people, right? I can even give the example of David Goggins. Would David Goggins have become who he was if he had such a bad upbringing? I don't think so. Don't think so. It was because of the intense traumas he went through that's made him who he is, and he's had such a good impact. But even he's never at peace. He's never satisfied, because he's peaceful but never satisfied. But he's never calm, because he knows he has a duty to keep going, and it's just instilled in his mind now that he can't relax. He's not allowed to take a step back and relax, right? Because he's just always on. And that can be stressful to be always on. But the reason he is because of his upbringing, because of what he's had to go through, the intense pain, the near-death experiences, the surgeries. He's had a hard life, but he wouldn't be where he was. He wouldn't be where he is now if it wasn't for that life. And so you think about all the traumas you go through. It's like, is that type of a thing what actually makes something great? It makes someone great, is going through something. It doesn't have to be that bad, but anything that sparks something deeper in you. Me talking about it on this episode, I'm convinced that the answer is yes. It has to be something that strikes you deeper than just living your life and saying, making up this goal in your head and saying you want to go and do it. To actually push to another level, it takes some level of brokenness. I truly believe that. But you have to always be careful, because sometimes that brokenness can be so much that you actually end up not being successful. You end up going down the other path. You got to be very, very careful when you're going through things in life to kind of make those situations right. Do the right thing when it comes to your future, rather than make the irrational, emotionally responsible decision to fall into the negative patterns, the patterns that can unfortunately bring you down. Unfortunately, like just literally bring you down to the point where you're just on the streets, right? And I don't think anyone wants that. But I'm going to end this episode kind of just reiterating this point. That's like, yes, we talk so much about the success stories, the rags to riches, but we don't talk about necessarily the riches to rags. And unfortunately, those stories are probably much more common than rags to riches story. It's not to scare you. I'm not saying that to scare you, to demotivate you. You should definitely still go out and pursue those things you want to pursue. But you have to be very careful, especially when we're dealing with trauma, when we're dealing with brokenness, difficult emotions, difficult situations. If you let them take you over, before you know it, you'll fall and you'll kind of slip. You'll slip and you'll fall and you'll keep going down. But putting them into the right places will definitely be the fuel you need to make it to whatever success you want to make it to. But you have to be very careful, because the riches to rags is probably more common. So you have to understand that, and understand that you should still take risks. You should still try your best. You should still give as much effort as you possibly can. Take those bad situations and turn them into something good. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful. And I wouldn't want you to wish anything bad to happen to you just because you want to be successful. But just trust in God. Have great faith and pray on the things that you need to pray on. Pray on the things truly that you're thinking about, the things that are kind of taking up thought in your mind, space in your mind, plaguing you a little bit. And let God answer some of those questions for you. And He will, trust me. And usually He will answer those questions through that exact pain and trauma and broken feelings that I'm talking about in this episode. God will break you down in order to build you back up. But you have to be willing to keep fighting and never give up on the fight, no matter what. You can be at rock bottom and still make it to the top. That's truly possible. But be wary of the consequences if you do the opposite of that, and always have faith and always have strength through it all. Continue fighting. Don't let that fighting spirit ever leave you. Don't ever, you might not have that desire, that obsession, like a lot of people have, but don't ever let that fighting spirit leave you. Don't ever give up the journey of life, because the second you do, you're only guaranteeing that you are going to slip away. Whether it is into the mediocrity of just kind of wasting your days, or unfortunately to something even worse for a lot of people. So being broken is really important when it comes to making it big, but you have to be very careful with those feelings. So that's all I got to say for today. I think the message is for you. If you're a person that hasn't really gone through trauma similar to me, if you haven't gone through anything bad, anything that's really hurt you, you shouldn't wish it upon you, but you should definitely look at your life truly from an unbiased perspective, judge how you're going about things, and implement some strategies to work harder, right? Implement some things and some habits to actually work harder in the things you're working on to try and do better, right? Try and find something that can hit you deeper. It doesn't have to be a trauma. It can just be something that hits you deeper, gives you more real type of desire rather than just a quick short burst of motivation, which unfortunately a lot of us just are succumb to. Social media is not going to do it. So finding a motivational speech isn't going to do it. You have to find something else that strikes you so much deeper than that in order to go and strive to do better in your own life. But always be careful, because sometimes you can make the wrong decision. You need to be very wary of that and continue striving in the way that you can in the best way possible. So that's all I got to say for today. That is my idea. That is my concept for today. It was a little bit ranty, I feel. I hope you enjoyed it regardless. I tried my best to kind of put some structure to it, but it was a little bit ranty. I think that's my main point, is that's you have to be broken to be successful. That is the main point of this whole episode. But brokenness, if taken too far and if you can't control it, it leads you down the wrong path. So you got to be careful. You got to be wary of it. You got to know how to overcome that. And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to be perfect. But I truly trust that if you have faith in God, He will make your life great if you truly trust in Him. And the problems that you're dealing with, you'll truly overcome each and every day. That's all I got to say for today. Thank you for watching this episode of the 365 Podcast. As always, if you enjoyed it, go like the video, subscribe on YouTube, and follow on Spotify, and watch some of the videos I plugged in this episode, as well as many of the other great episodes I've already made on this show. That's all I gotta say for today. Thank you for watching. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow for the next episode.